Hello, Starshine. My name is Liz and this is my channel, Simsational Stories. If you have not seen my videos before and you enjoy this one, please like and subscribe. And maybe check out my other social media as well. I'm on both Facebook and Twitter. All relevant links are in the description below. And of course, if you're a Sims player and you'd like to download any of my characters, just search the hashtag Simsational Stories on the Sims 4 gallery. All original content is created by This Is Not Eric. Finally, before I begin my Simsational story, I'd like to issue this blanket content and trigger warning. The following story is just Sims, hey. I'm not going to apologise for treating them terribly, if that's what I've done. But I do want to assure you now that although I mean absolutely no harm, I completely understand if you feel unable to consume my content. Many loves, and we will catch each other on the internet elsewhere. Okay, so now we've gotten that over with. Let's go. Today's story is from The Babysitter Builds a Life, and we're at chapter 9. If you have not seen previous chapters and would like to catch up, there are playlists available on my channel so you can hear the entire story in chronological order. The rest of us are going to move on from where we left off last time though, so without further ado. All the celebrities worth knowing or hearing about lived in Del Sol Valley, and this mansion was absolutely perfect for the Henry family. Everything was ready for them to move in. Record producer and manager Cliff Maloney led them up the stairs with pride. Cliff wasn't an entirely evil man. He knew he'd betrayed their trust in the way he'd chosen to produce and release their music, and he wanted to make it up to them somehow. It was stunning. Cliff had had his assistant Dahlia decorate the place, and as she and Ali were quite close, much of it was tailored perfectly to her taste. Overwhelmingly colourful, yet beautiful, eclectic, and everything Ali had ever dreamed of having in her home, down to the kotatsu table and everything. It wasn't quite Ashley's style, but then, if Ali was happy, then he was happy. He didn't care where they lived, as long as they were together. Cliff Maloney looked on smugly as they explored their new home with growing excitement. They were being won over by every step into this glittering world that they took. He could see that. The property had been fully furnished by Thalia, Cliff's personal assistant, who had an eye for detail, and there was even a recording studio in the basement. They had lived in their dingy, dank San Mishono apartment for far too long. A family of 4, all crammed into the 2 rooms. It was ridiculous. Ashley Henry still had a lot of misgivings about the entire music industry after everything they'd gone through. But he couldn't deny that getting to tell the kids about their new home was a wonderful moment. They moved in the next week. Ali's young daughter Cleopatra, whom Ashley Henry had not fathered but had adopted, was a little worried about starting a new school, especially one filled with heaps of rich kids. But the house really was a lot more suitable for the young family than the apartment had been. Ali utterly adored her new kitchen. The bench space alone was such a luxury, let alone all the fancy appliances and expensive oven Thalia had filled it with. Nothing like the old stove they'd had at the old place that had only had one working burner left. For the first time in her life, Ali was learning to bake, and the results were delicious. The kids even had a whole playroom all to themselves. Back in San Mishono, Ali had struggled to contain the chaos her children seemed to oh so naturally create. But here in Del Sol Valley, with all the extra shelf and cupboard space, they were really able to spread out and enjoy their childhood. Ali loved it. Toddler Christian in particular, she felt would really benefit from this change. Even Ashley had to admit that the acoustics downstairs in the basement recording studio were wonderful. He had always been able to create beautiful, haunting music, but it was limited by the environment he was in. Playing a high-quality, expensive guitar in a well-built, soundproof room was bound to sound better than the pawnshop guitar in a snowy street had. Not that Ashley Henry was the one singing his music anymore anyway. It was all Ali now. As their children played in the background, the couple were completing their contractual obligations to create and record their second album. Although the songs were all written by Ashley, which was how it had always been, they were now sung by his wife, who had never before looked for stardom, but now basked in it. Whether she had looked for it or not didn't matter, of course, for Ali Henry Clements was now a household name and the star of the show. As they performed together across all the known neighbourhoods, Ashley Henry felt himself drift even further into the background of their sets as his wife took the spotlight. Ali felt guilty over the whole thing. Of course she did. But what else could they do, really? They'd gone over the contracts endless times. Simsational Sounds basically owned them. And if they didn't play ball, they'd be bankrupt. Yes, they were becoming rich and famous for selling out, but wasn't that better than being poor? Ashley Henry felt the sting of selling out a lot more deeply, though. These were his songs and his music they were butchering out there. And surely they'd sell better if they actually sounded the way they were supposed to, the way he'd written them. Record producer and manager Cliff Mahoney lost count of how many times he had to say no to the young maestro. It was a no-brainer, though. Ashley Henry was capable of writing some haunting lyrics and melodies, sure, but he had almost no commercial value. Singer-songwriter was a trope done to death. Not like Ali, struggling single mum turned overnight success story who'd somehow found true love along the way, a man who wrote for her. Now that was a tale that wrought at the heartstrings of almost everyone. Cliff recognised that a large portion of Ali's appeal to the masses was her family, and specifically her children. The general public were weirdly obsessed with celebrity kids, and the unique family and professional dynamics at play within the Henry Clements family made for quick-selling fodder for the tabloids. Despite a rather close and happy dynamic behind closed doors, the young celebrity couple were encouraged by their manager to appear aloof and almost distant in public, especially when paparazzi or reporters were nearby. It suited their public image, Cliff would tell them, to give the illusion of an unhappy marriage. Cliff wanted what was best for them. He knew what the industry was like, and they needed to listen to him if they were going to get anywhere in this world. Ashley didn't trust a word the man said. Cliff was a two-faced snake who had already shown them his true colours, but Ali seemed to have fallen under his spell. And that brings us to the end of Chapter 9 of The Babysitter Builds a Life. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can tune in soon to hear the next chapter. And hey, maybe think about sharing my channel with a friend. Or don't, it's your life. Anyway, bye!